Welcome to this episode of Cloud Unscripted, where we have no fluff, no rehearsed speeches apart from the intro. And yet again, I'm sitting here with my pals, Sebastian, and a new face, Antti. Welcome.
Hi guys, thanks for having me here.
Could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure, why not? Yeah, I've been doing IT for around 25 years. Out of that, outsourcing, consulting basically most of the time. When I started IT, I was thinking about that. The server was NT, so Exchange version was 5. So yeah, I've been doing this for a while, so you can call me the elder statesman or an old fart. I'm fine with both.
OG.
OG, yeah.
Or IT janitor.
IT janitor. I like to call myself IT janitor.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of stuff for a while. But yeah, last 10 years I've been doing cloud business. I started with O365 and Azure came quite quickly after that. And currently, yeah, doing security and compliance, identities and device management. Yeah.
Keeps you busy, I guess.
Keeps me very busy. Security is a hot topic nowadays.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is actually. I just last week I visited Kyberlahti, the cybersecurity conference, and it was packed. All of the places were taken, and it was really good conference, really good speeches. So it seems that that in that sense also the CitySec movement is quite hot.
Yeah. I think if anything has like AI or security in the topic, the place is packed all the time currently.
Yeah, so it seems. And tomorrow there is Microsoft AI Day.
You are very badly dating this episode.
Yes.
But yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but that is correct. Yes, and we were talking with friends that have actually started their startups, and they are doing the startup buzz in over there, and talking how AI can help businesses. So a hot topic again.
Yeah.
Another hot topic is why we're gathered here today.
Yes, a very sexy one, very hot.
Really like the sexiest one.
I like that you picked me for the most sexy episode ever.
You're welcome. Only the best for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, but Antti, you see that here your extensive knowledge about IT for the past how many decades, that is like that is something that we can use when we are talking about Sebastian's hot topic. Like last episode, Sebastian brought a topic, and for this episode, Sebastian has also brought a topic. So today we are talking about
FinOps.
yes,
Which has surprisingly nothing to do with Finnish people.
No,
Yes.
nothing. Or
and
if
then
they do the actual delivery, then it sort of kind of has a bit,
Yeah.
but no, not really.
I do like to think whenever I see somewhere in Microsoft documents or LinkedIn and the FinOps, like, yes, operations by Finland.
It's a beautiful thought.
Yes, a whole world should be run by Finnish people. That's going to get some comment.
Oh. Yeah.
Right, okay, FinOps.
Yeah, it's running sort of a parallel track in popularity with AI, in my opinion. Even though, say, a lot of organizations are split, some are really far along on their FinOps journeys, and others haven't really begun anything in that field and are sort of suffering because of that. They maybe did an early cloud adoption, which led to, I mean, come on, in 2017 there was a lot of interesting ways how to govern cloud, and a lot of companies didn't really do their homework on that topic. So
Do you think it's because cost management is part of cloud adoption framework, also architected framework, but those are still quite new things? Like in the past 5-6 years, they've come more along. So is it because even those CAF and WAR are not so well known around, so it would be that's the reason why some organizations are still catching up on FinOps also?
well, I'm more pragmatic than that. So say during COVID times, companies were pouring money into the cloud. Nobody really gave it what it cost. Not really. Not like, we'll just do some stuff and it's going to be awesome. It's cloud. And now when the times are a bit more challenging, all of a sudden cost becomes a hot topic.
Yeah, I don't know. I see it as being part of doing things properly.
Yeah.
As I said, when you start your cloud journey, you do your due diligence on governance and on management of everything, and one of those topics is obviously cost of how you're doing. But because you don't have the knowledge, or you start quite quickly, you have the necessity of setting up a really important software or an application, or you are selling something, the cost probably isn't the first thing you think about. So maybe it's because of that the topic is comes in hindsight after the accident
rearing its head from the background.
How do you see that?
Yeah, Jukka, what's your take on the topic?
I think that the clients are really cautious when it comes to price of things, so that the cheapest is the best solution. When you are talking with clients, they want everything to be as cheap as possible, and then at some cases I have heard not so good ideas, like a customer asking me that if I would do them an automation that would automatically change the size of their managed disk based on certain parameters, and as you start to calculate the costs of doing that sort of automation, you can run 100 terabytes disks for a couple of years.
Well, I had that case at one point, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. A customer moved into cloud. We did the cloud transition of moving from on-premises data center into cloud. And as you know, one-to-one, that probably isn't cost effective to do. But yeah, we managed to get some savings here and there. But one of the outcomes of that was that the customer was really interested in in Azure, what size their discs were, what SKU they were they like standard or premium or whatever. And then I was like, well, maybe that's not your point here. Maybe we should actually start looking at doing things properly, using cloud properly. I think it starts from, after you learn cloud adoption framework from the heart, like we do, you start to apply it in the real world. So it starts from how do you start to do development of applications, or how do you move your infrastructure in the cloud. As I said, one-to-one isn't the most cost effective. It's probably comes from, can we modernize any of these and stuff like that. But because that's a long way to do it, it's the return on investment calculations are harder for those. It usually comes down to, let's not do that.
Well, there's one surprising thing that costs more than most people would, on a gut instinct, guess that it does. And that's the logs. My God, logging can be expensive.
Yeah, that is true when you start to calculate for the Azure Log Analytics.
Yes.
And if you have
long log retention periods.
Yes, and you have lots and lots of data coming in. So it starts to be really costly. But I would like to take on this topic. Sometimes it seems that the customers, they are looking the cost savings from the wrong places. Like we talk like some managed disks and some data storage and stuff like that, which is not costing anything to them in a bigger picture.
Mm.
And then even if you are moving everything as is to cloud, which of course is not recommended, but if you do that, and then the first thing you need to do is start to right size everything. That's another thing, and then you look at the graphs and everything is at 2% and utilization. You're like, why did you build them like this?
But yeah, I think there's 2 points there I want to tackle. I think the scripting, for example, like right sizing or something like that, is a symptomatic of not understanding the situation. It's too complicated, or you don't have enough knowledge of Azure, of thinking cost effects, or FinOps anyway. So you do what you do, which ends up probably using more money than it's worth, because we all know, it takes time to do a proper script and work with that. But the other thing is I disagree with maybe a bit. I used to think that you shouldn't move anything to cloud as is, and I've talked to a lot of Microsoft people, and I've come to like the idea that in some cases it can be worth doing because for that specific moment it can cost a lot, but because once you are in cloud and you can see the costs of everything, and if you have basic things set up like tagging for like calculating how much everything costs per cost center and stuff like that, then you can go into the business units and say, look, the systems you are using currently are because normally costs are covered by IT and not business units, because that's just because you don't have because maybe it's being too difficult to split the cost or everything like that. But in the cloud, because it's so much easier.
Yes.
I had this case where we migrated a customer into cloud. They had about 200 servers. Before we even moved anything, we've got that down to 100 servers because we went to the business unit and said, look, you have this server here.
Do you need it? Does it do anything?
And the answer usually was, we have this one file which we wanted to store. It's like you are paying for the server in the data center just for one file. Could we maybe move it to SharePoint or blob storage or something like that?
Oh no, that's for vacation pictures we can share for everyone.
So in that case, we got 100 servers into cloud, and there would like different servers like SQL, which in some cases we could do the platform as a service version of it, or we had to manage, at one point we actually had to set up a cluster in Azure. That's another story for that. But for example, then we had some servers that we had to move in the cloud, but once they were there and all of the data was there, for example, for the finance units, we could modernize all of the servers to use logic apps and using Service Bus and other integration services. But the data had to be in Azure before we could do that. But then one by one we could
modernize the environment.
So we got rid of like another 10 servers with using modernization, but it required that everything was there and that we had the clear-cut costs to show the business units.
And this is what the cloud is for.
Exactly. So. Yeah,
absolutely.
So I do think there's a business case. There might be, if you are willing to take the hit for a while, to understand that at the end you can get like big savings and big modernization. There might be, in certain cases, a point for doing the migration.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And in certain cases, there might be no case for a migration whatsoever. I mean, if your application runs on Windows XP single core, it might be challenging to get it running properly in the cloud.
I had a customer where we did the Microsoft solution assessment for them to see what it would cost to move everything to Azure, and it wasn't that much, but it was only after we did that somebody at the company said, "Oh yeah, right, we just bought this server rack and all of these blades on-prem, so yeah, we have like 5 years left of lease on those." Like, you could have told me that before we did this and all of this work. So yeah, they had no business case of going to the cloud.
Yeah, but then sometimes you have it the other way around, that the customer comes and, our lease is ending in 3 months, and so
3 months.
So could we do something? Well, not maybe 3 months, but like
that's actually, sometimes it's like it's next month. Like sure we can.
Yeah,
but it'll cost you.
Yeah. So
you like to live dangerous.
So then basically you don't have any other choice than just take everything and move it to the cloud.
Yeah,
like whatever the cost, since it's much more expensive if you start to renew those contracts for a couple of years.
You did a lot of on-prem stuff. How do you think it compares to like cloud costs in general? How expensive was it to run, say, a 200 server environment? Because a lot of I think viewers of this podcast don't really know. They're maybe more cloud native.
Yeah, so I've been doing outsourced IT for a couple of big companies in Finland and a couple of smaller ones. Like at one company we were only like 20, but we did hosting for them quite a lot. So I think Finland is a bit special case, an edge case, because hosting in Finland historically has been really cheap. Okay. So hosting costs usually cover everything. So you have like the management and the service fee. So that costs that includes the server, all of the backups, internet. And one of the things probably is like, you obviously know that in Azure and AWS and Google, everywhere, the networking costs money. That's because in the United States, if you are hosting in a data center in United States, you pay for the internet. So historically, they've taken also the business model from there into cloud. So Azure costs and network costs I never like figure those out, because there are no, unless you are moving a lot of stuff, it's negligible. It doesn't cost you anything. But like, yeah, sure. So the internet connection in Finland in hosting is included, all of those. So you could actually get like really competitive prices in Finland historically. Even nowadays, sometimes it's really cheap. So that's why I come from the point of view that you have to do it properly. You have to think out of the box of like apples to apples to like, we can do the move quickly, but then you have to take into account that you have to use the platform services, serverless services, and you have to start modernizing. That's why sometimes it's good to just leave everything on-prem and start greenfield setups in cloud, and that's a business case. In some cases, I mean, like if most of the companies in Finland and in the world use off-the-shelf software, they don't develop their own software, and in those cases, I mean, nowadays, because cloud is so well used, everybody, all of the vendors' software normally supports cloud, but it wasn't.
That wasn't the case.
That wasn't even 5-6 years ago.
No.
I had lots of customers where we did migrations. We talked to the vendors and said, "Look, can we take this to cloud?" There's like, no, we don't support that.
No.
Now they have to do, because everybody's like in there. But yeah.
But also we have a lot of industry in this country that doesn't really go full cloud native, like a lot of wood industry, for example. Their machines, they are on-prem, they will be on-prem, and they will never change from on-prem.
Yeah, I had a customer near Hyvinkää who did cable. They build cables, and they had in their factory, they had not really, well, next to broom closet, but it was an okay like on-premises small server room where they had like, because the factory had power like doubled there, and they had air conditioning there and everything. It wasn't really bad, but it was like,
it's not a server room.
No, we know it's not a proper server room, but it was good enough for them to run their operations. Obviously, what they wanted to do, and what they did, and what we actually did, we moved all of the UCCS stuff. Like so, at that time we moved all of their mailboxes into Exchange Online and started using online services and all of that, and that was a business case definitely for them, so they could get all of the services for the price of the license, and they didn't have to have somebody in there. Well, we were the guys who handled all of the exchanges, Skype for Business and everything, but they could get rid of that, and that was a business case for them. But then all of the service that ran, all of the software for the running of the servers or the machines and everything, it was like, we're fine. We don't have to do anything.
One thing I remember back in the day, case for a big customer, that they wanted to have a Azure SQL database rather than the full-blown server or managed instance. And the vendor that was creating the software, they said that no, we are not supporting anything cloud native and stuff like that. So we thought that, let's try it. That could it work with the Azure SQL? And we went and tried it, and it worked flawlessly. But we still couldn't get the
seal of approval.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, they want to test it, and they want to get the support.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean that, like, by telling that, I mean that probably a bunch of the software would have been able to go to cloud right away.
I've had actually like literally 3 cases in which we couldn't use Azure SQL. One was, it's all documented what's supported in there, what's not. I can't remember what they were. It was one of the things that wasn't supported in SQL, normal platform as a service and managed instances. Wasn't in either of those, so we had to go with a built-in cluster. And 2 times we had to set up a managed instance because the normal platform as a service wasn't supported. So it's really rare.
It does happen,
but it does happen. In occasion.
Yeah.
And it's rarer nowadays.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Because even at one point, for example, SAP, and that's SAP cluster, if you have one, they need 5 millisecond
Yes.
latency between them, which now you can get that, but
not even like
5 years ago,
Yeah.
5-6 years ago, you couldn't get that. So
I know the customer. They piloted this for in Finland.
yeah,
I might have been somewhat involved, but not directly, but
Yeah.
listening to their agony and pain over this
I have
one.
been in a couple of pre-sales cases where SAP has been sold, but I have been trying to get away from those.
Yeah, it's curious because when I started, as I said, around 10 something years ago, I did have, when I talked to customers, I had a deck where I had good use cases, and I remember it had like pictures and documentation from Microsoft, good use cases and bad use cases. And currently, I don't have that because I don't think there's any use cases that you cannot use cloud for if you do a proper architecture.
You had a funny thing. I don't know at all how to optimize, say, SAP servers because they're so gigantic already. And what can you do to them, even from a cost savings perspective? I have no idea.
So SAP FinOps, Antti, go.
If you ask SAP what you should do to optimize, say nothing.
Nothing, just more power is what they say.
Well, actually, it's actually quite funny because, at the beginning of my career, something like 18 years ago, I used to work for a company that did build pumps. In Finland, I did their internal IT, and they were moving their ERPs to SAP, and there was this consultant just come in and cost a lot of money. I asked how much how much can a SAP consultant? I was like, for a minute, I was thinking, yeah, that's what I want to do. Luckily, I didn't go that way. But yeah, if money was at that point what I wanted to do, that was the way to go.
I had the same idea.
Everything costs so much. So a hot take, if you want to save money, FinOps, don't do SAP.
Or if you want to make a lot of money, become an SAP consultant.
Yeah, I don't know if they make that much money anymore, but yeah.
Either.
Yeah, it's the licensing that kills you. We had one customer in a food manufacturer in Finland where they had SAP, and we were they wanted to do a data platform on the data of SAP, and we're like, oh yeah, we can't do that because you can't basically get anything out of there because they lock it up quite good with the licensing.
You've seen the SAP machine types in Azure.
Yeah.
It's not only the licensing that will kill you.
It's
Holy crap.
Yeah, but how you guys see that, if you want to do, optimize the costs and optimize the cloud environment that the customer has, then when you come to the licenses, for example, if you have some, Oracle databases or DB2s and something like that, which cost loads of money. How would you see that? How would you start to optimize that kind of environment? And
pray to God that they can go for hybrid license benefit and paid for the licenses already.
Yeah, it's.
It's
I don't think I when I go there. Well, actually, where it starts, obviously, it starts what you were saying earlier: logging, getting logs. And getting back to that actually quite quickly. Yes, logging costs a lot of money, but that's for example, security logging is important. And the thing is, I think the problem with people there is they log everything.
Yes.
I had a customer who worked in the electricity field, and they logged everything from their domain controllers into OMS.
Yeah, everything.
Everything. I was like,
what?
Yes, and they paid 5,000-6,000 euros per month just for 4 or 6 domain controller logging, because they logged everything
That's
on
not
premises
even
logs.
Nothing.
Yeah, and it was don't do that. But yeah, so Logging can screw you, but you have to check what you log and everything. But same happens here. Log and be specific what you log of the utilization of the CPU's memory and everything like that. One of the problems with obviously SAP and some of these programs is that the vendor says and tells you quite strictly is that you have to go with this size queue or you're out of like support or something like that. Yeah. But if you're not in that kind of scenario, obviously go with logging and see what you can do. And if you can, once again, start thinking about modernizing the systems. Can you move, like if you have a system that's been with an SQL on-prem and the software on a separate server, can you, for example, go with the platform as a service? Or if it's a web-based application, can you go with a web app? Like modernize, get rid of a server or two with a web app and a platform as a service SQL. It's things like that.
I have to, like, if you thought a couple of grand was a lot, I know of a client that pays about, on average, 75,000 a month.
I know, but that was a customer starting to go, and it was like literally 4 servers they were locking. I mean, like
this is going out of hand, crazy out of hand.
Yeah, but it was because they were thinking of moving everything. They had like 200 servers. I was like, well, 4 servers cost this much. Do you want to log everything? They're like, we're fine. We don't need to know everything. Because obviously, if you go into on-prem servers, if you look at the system logs, signing logs, everything, there's so much there.
Yes.
The information log, because everything is locked on a Windows server or a Linux server, either way, just, pick your battles and see what you want to get there and go specific. Goes with everything, or the logging security, or just anything. So, have we covered everything on FinOps?
Absolutely not. We actually didn't even cover what FinOps really is, but that's
should you maybe go through it here at the end?
No, not really. That's not the point of Cloud Unscripted.
I'll say one thing or a couple of things because I like to listen to my own voice. Planning, Cloud Unscripted framework. Study that, what it involves with regards to cost savings. Well, architecture framework, look at the cost saving builder or cost there, and then, just start small and do planning and it comes from doing the cloud properly, utilizing the cloud to the fullest, as we said, using the platform services, not necessarily just like virtual machines and everything. So doing things correctly gets and those like Cloud Open framework, the framework gets you started somewhere, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna backtrack a bit. Of course, I can't shut up about it. Communicate within the company. First of all, don't have the silos. Make people talk. Have the costs visible. Have clear ownership for the costs. The answer is not IT will pay for it. That's not how you operate in the cloud. Have budgets, have alerts, have somebody that actually reacts to these things, because it can get really expensive if something goes wrong, and Microsoft any of the hyperscalers aren't usually very merciful when it comes to these misconfigurations that become very costly. And in general, design it from the ground up in a cost-effective manner, so you don't have to have these discussions later on.
Yeah, and like I said, it comes from like when you have your developers and everybody with their accesses, like limit them. For example, like do like the due diligence is your development environment. They have more permissions, but still have guidelines and guardrails there in place. But when you go in production, have even more of those.
Yes.
And coming back to what like I said and you said again now is. Have like tagging in place and put the cost into the business unit. Make the business units responsible for the costs, so that quite fast makes it more effective for them. They know how to run their business best, and they know what they need. So exactly that. Just not have one lump sum from IT, but have business units do that side also.
And the visibility. Dear God, don't block the developers from seeing the cost. That makes no sense.
My God, did we actually get some good insights at the end?
advice for free. We're consultants. Delete this now!
No, I won't delete anything. Yeah, but we took a slight detours.
Never.
Yeah.
Impossible.
But I mean,
Wasn't
that
this
is...
unscripted?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Sebastian, what have you learned since the last episode?
That the public sector is a wild place to work in.
And you are just noticing it now?
Well, yes. And no, but yeah, there's been a lot of interesting times in the past few weeks when I've been like really kicking off in the new project, so...
Okay.
Finland is an interesting state at the moment.
It is.
The last Withered report that came out stated that there are some signs of project demand. Maybe. Like stabilizing at least, so...
Yeah, to zero.
Yes, exactly.
No, but there are some there, but it's still an interesting state we are in, because obviously the municipalities have a lot of cost savings folded onto them, and it does affect a lot, because they are obviously a big part of public sector in Finland.
Yes.
And that government sector is massive, but still like municipalities run a lot of public sector projects there, so it's picking up, but it's still quite interesting.
What about you? Did you learn something?
Well, yeah, I have learned a lot, but the one thing that I would like to mention is Azure Resource Inventory. Have you guys tried it?
I've looked at it, but no, I haven't used it.
Well, I have done many implementations with Cloud Unscripted to document customer environments, so that they can have automated Excels coming out, and then they can see what is happening and what is going on, and that has been really beneficial. But now you have Cloud Unscripted, you have to pay for it. Yeah. Even though it's not a big cost, but it's
still something.
Yeah, but it's still something.
Cost something. Cost savings.
Yeah, exactly.
See what you did there.
Yeah.
Or where are you going with this?
Well, I didn't even think about that, but thank you for including it.
Tying everything up.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, basically, it is a free service, or more like a PowerShell extension from Microsoft, which you can use to do exactly the same thing. It will spit out an Excel sheet with your resources and with all of the Security Center recommendations and Azure Advisor recommendations and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it will also draw you diagrams of your environment. Yeah. Which you can put.
Do they work properly? I looked at that, but I haven't seen does it work properly?
Well, I haven't tried it in a large enterprise scale environment yet, but in a smaller scale at least it works surprisingly okay.
Okay.
Like compared to Cloud Unscripted, it's like a...
Yeah, that was always iffy.
Yeah, since it was basically just like all of the resources were laid next to each other, and it was like a 2 kilometer long
line.
Yes, exactly. But what I have seen with the ARI, it has a better diagrams. Oh. But still, if you want to have actually good architectural diagrams, you need to draw them by yourself. But nonetheless, a great tool, and especially for the price, which is exactly zero, it is an awesome tool.
Cool.
Good to know.
Good to know. Thanks, Jukka. And also, Antti, thank you for coming along for this little
Thanks
show.
for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, and let's see if we see more Antti in the future.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
And thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes, see you next time.
Hear you next time.
That's too, on Spotify.
For people watching this on YouTube, see you next time, and people who are listening to this in Spotify or any other podcasting platform, hear you next time.
Bye.
Bye.